were in my favor. I had 'em 5-1. And that nag to win came around the track. Sure enough, we had won.
Well, we got a couple months left of the meet here. Last year at this point, I think I had won quite a few more races than I have now. Now everybody's winning races, a lot of riders here, and it's just spread out a little more than usual. So it's a little bit slower than it has been in the past, but you know, you just got to keep working and keep moving forward. Everybody's going to develop their style of riding as they ride races and as they win races. Some riders always go to the lead. Some guys always take back and try to come from last and circle the field. I really don't prefer to be from off the pace or on the lead. It doesn't really matter to me, but I do want to be on the fence. Now you got some horses that might not like to be on the rail, you know, and if I'm got a horse like that, well then yeah, I'll ride him the way that horse needs to be ridden or the way that trainer wants me to ride their horse. If it's my choice and I think my horse is comfortable in that spot, it's gonna be on the fence. I've had a lot of success on the fence, and you know, it's just kind of something that my dad taught me when I was young, and it worked out for me, and I just kind of stuck with it. My dad was definitely, you know, always adamant about saving ground. Shortest way around there is the fence, and you know, that's where I want to be. Can't stand losing ground. You know, and I don't mind going in a tight spot. You know, not at all. My dad said, which I guess maybe not necessarily is always the truth, but he always said, if his head will fit, the rest will too. I watch other riders a lot. You know, I make a lot of decisions based on the riders in front of me, the riders around me. You know, sometimes if I see a guy up there on, you know, that's on the fence that I know is not going to come off the rail, that stays on the rail all the time, maybe I'll start looking for a way to get out. There's other guys that are going to float off the fence every time, and I like those kind of riders. The guys that are behind me, you know, they know to go around me because I ain't coming off the fence. You're gonna if you're gonna come through on the fence, you know, on me, you're gonna have to earn that, you know, because I'm always on top of it. Wicklo, colt trained by Mike Rivas. You know, we're really not too familiar with the horse. It was Mike's first time running him, my first time riding him. When we left the gate, my horse, he just kind of fell out of the gate, kind of broke a little awkward, you know, so I just sat on him, let him get his feet underneath him. You know, it's the first time I've been on the horse, so I just kind of let him gather himself up and drop to the fence again. You know, the horse in front of me is 3. You know, I was watching him. It looked like he had a lot of horse. You know, so I was kind of waiting. You know, I knew it was set, so I was just kind of waiting to see where he was going to go. Maybe, you know, try to follow him through, you know, through some of the spots, because, you know, let him make the holes for me, get me somewhere, you know, so I could get through. And we started around, you know, the turn. I seen the 4 was kind of backing up a little bit, so I eased out of him. It looked like he was getting in a little bit of trouble, you know. So I still wasn't quite sure where I was going to go right here. Well, when I seen the 5 duck out, I hurried up and asked my horse to run as fast as I could so I could get through those spots in a hurry, because you don't want to hang in those tight spots like that when you get in trouble. You know, so when we turned for home, I asked my horse to, you know, I asked my horse to run, and you know, he went on strong. You know, I was following the 3 all the way around there, but he had so much horse. You know, he really kicked on, finished real strong. My horse, he kept on, just wasn't quite good enough. Just got beat for second. So we're hoping that he'll jump up and, you know, get the job done here soon. Seems like every year, my Arlington meet, I go in streaks for some reason. It's kind of been that way this year too. I had the 4-win day just recently. I won 2. Kittens Kitten, trained by Mike Rivas. You know, I was coming up right here. I was kind of concerned where I was going to go, you know. I was wondering where I was going to get through, but, you know, I got lucky. Chris, when he asked his horse, had kicked on, and the 9 backed out of there, and I was able to find a seam, you know, to get through. You know, I just kept getting in my horse, and, you know, I asked, he went on. I was able to, you know, save enough horse to stay on all the way to the wire. Nick the Quick, he's trained by Steve Fridley, you know, a great guy. You know, Nick the Quick, I had broke his maiden back in '07, so, you know, I've had a long history with that horse. I've won, you know, quite a few races on him throughout the years. He's an older horse that I've been, you know, riding for a long time, and he was really good last year. You know, he had a strong summer. He was one of the favorites every time in the starter races. His first 3 starts of the meet, he felt the same early in the race. He was tugging me along, but he just seemed to tail off. Didn't finish quite as strong. So, you know, I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe he doesn't have that same kick that he used to. So everybody just kind of gave up on him. He got lost in the betting. He ended up floating up to like 40 to 1. You know, he had run a couple bad races. You know, he just hadn't finished as strong, and you know, they just let him slip away. When we left the gate, everybody just kind of went out of there, and you know, I tried to save as much horse riding him. I mean, I've ridden him for a long time, so I know him quite well. You know, so going in the turn, I just did what I always do. I dropped to the fence and saved as much horse and as much ground as I could. You know, right here, you know, I kind of thought that Quincy was going to drop all the way down. He kind of, you know, looked over, and I thought he was going to go ahead and drop all the way to the fence, but you know, he didn't. He kind of stayed out, so I just stayed, you know, down on the fence with, you know, on good hold of my horse. He was tugging me along pretty good. You know, I seen there was a lot of horses up there. I knew that I was going to have to find somewhere to go. You know, so I just sat back there, you know, just patient, waiting on something to open up. You know, waited to let everybody make their decisions before I made mine. You know, we're heading around the turn. You know, I was looking, you know, trying to figure out, you know, where I was going to go. You know, it looked there for a second like I wasn't going to have anywhere to go. You know, but I was able to stay tucked down on the fence, and you know, it got pretty tight, you know, but I was able to squeeze my way through. You know, and I turned for home. Still, after I made it through the one tight spot, still wasn't quite sure where I was going to go, you know, after that. So I just stayed on the fence, and I was able to get through another tight spot. You know, then I only had one horse to get around after that. You know, I was able to squeeze through that spot, and my horse, you know, he kept running and just got up in the last jump. So it's nice for him to jump up and win. Well, we've got 2 months left in the meet. You know, hopefully things kind of turn around a little bit. You know, hopefully I get a few more winners. It's pretty spread out. I still got my business. You know, I still got a lot of good trainers to ride for. Hopefully the horses start running a little better and, you know, jump up and win a few more races here for the last couple months.